How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com. Yeah, BlackBerry's pretty much dominated the wireless conversation, at least for the past couple of weeks when it comes to review devices, because they just released a bunch of handsets. But that's not stopping us from doing a dogfight between two hot Android phones that are on the market right now. The Motorola PHOTON 4G is one of those phones, and it's available now at Sprint for $200, and it's arguably Sprint's flagship device. Dual-core processor, 8-megapixel camera, 4.3-inch high-resolution display, global roaming capabilities, and more. We're putting it up against the Samsung Infuse 4G on AT&T. 4.5-inch display, so super big display, single-core processor, but 8-megapixel camera as well. So these are arguably two flagships on AT&T and on Sprint. Which one is going to take the gold? We'll find out in the dogfight. First, special thanks to my buddies at Best Buy, because you get cool phones like this in our One Paw Bandit game because they hook us up with some awesome phones. So when you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, help you get your camera set up. All those settings on your phone, you'll be good to go when you walk out at Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look at these and see which one is the dogfight champion. Is it Photon or Infuse? Let's find out. So you got two flagship phones on two different carriers, but this is a dogfight, so only one can win. Here's the Motorola PHOTON 4G. It's available now from Sprint for $199.99, and really there are two flagship devices on Sprint, the PHOTON 4G and the Evo 3D. It's all dependent on what you want, which user interface you prefer, whether you need the global roaming on the PHOTON or you want the 3D capabilities on the Evo 3D. It's all, they're really head-to-head in terms of specs and features and more. Then you have the Samsung Infuse 4G on AT&T. Big display, flagship phone. It's right up there with the Atrix 4G, so even though it has a single core processor, it's a nice device with a big display, 8-megapixel camera, and more. So we'll walk through some of the specs pretty briefly here. 1 gigahertz dual core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor over here. So one of my favorite dual core processors, the Tegra 2, is in this one. I've just always found it to be the fastest in day-to-day performance, and it really doesn't disappoint on the PHOTON 4G. So you have that processor, you have an 8-megapixel camera on the back with HD video recording capabilities. You have a 4.3-inch QHD display with Pentile technology, which we'll talk a little bit about, talk more about later in the video, rather, with Pentile and whether it's a pro or con over some of the other screen technologies. But 4.3-inch display there, and you have Android 2.3 with the latest build of Motorola's user interface, the Motorola Applications platform. So you're up to date across the board on this device. Not only that, it has a front-facing camera, has a kickstand as well. So finally get that kickstand back, so you can throw it up like that. And kickstand opportunity, of course it turns the clock on when I do that. And it's a 1,650 milliamp hour battery, and it has global roaming capability. So it's one of those things, people that used to travel overseas a lot and were on a carrier like Sprint or on Verizon had to resort to the BlackBerries whenever they had to travel because they were the few that had the global roaming capabilities. Well, now you can carry a high-end Android device and you don't have to worry about switching devices back and forth when you leave and come back into the country. So it's a nice touch there. So micro USB charging port over here on the left side, HDMI port over there as well, and that is not wanting to go back on. Let's see if we can get it to snap back on. And then you got your volume rocker over here. Camera shortcut button. Now the interesting thing about the camera shortcut button, it's going to bother me until I get that fixed. The interesting thing about this camera shortcut button is there's no half press for autofocus. I'm going to talk while I try to get this squeezed back on, so bear with me. There's no autofocus. It's either all or nothing, so you can't autofocus unless you press the screen. It's you push it down and automatically takes the picture wherever it's at. There we go. That's a little better. And then you can see the lock screen as well for Android 2.3 with Motorola's custom user interface. Then you have the Infuse 4G over here, 1.2 gigahertz single core processor. Now it's running a single core Hummingbird processor. It has an 8-megapixel camera. Now where it really wins, it's a big device. It has a 4.5-inch Super AMOLED Plus display. It has that front-facing camera as well, and of course it's GSM, so you can utilize AT&T's international services to take it overseas if you so desire. But it's a really small device. It's 8.99 millimeters thick or thin, depending on how you want to say it. And then you've got in typical Samsung style your power button over here on the right side. You have your volume rocker on the left, and then of course you have your micro USB charging port down there at the bottom. You have 4 capacitive buttons on both of these devices, and you'll notice they're all in rare kind of form here. They're all in the same spot. You have menu, home, back, and search. Now Android 2.2 on this with TouchWiz 3.0, so it's running a later or an older version rather on both fronts. It's running 3.0, whereas 4.0 is already out on the Galaxy S2, and then you have Android 2.2, so it's still missing Android 2.3. So some updates need to be done on the software front, but still, even without it, it's a nice flagship device. Now I was having issues getting the 3G to work on the AT&T Infuse 4G, so I had to kick both of these on Wi-Fi to make it fair. I hate doing reviews on Wi-Fi, but if you're wondering, that's why. So keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit more about that in part 2 when I do some network tests. But let's take a look at the overall user interfaces of both. Now you can see out of the box, We'll load up applications on both of these, and you can see that over here on TouchWiz, it has a very iOS look and feel to it. You can see it scrolls from left to right, and you don't see this in the newer version, but at least in this version, you see these kind of colorful boxes around all the apps. You see, different colors. You see blue, you see purple, you see kind of a green, kind of an orange, a purple again, and with the dock down here, it looks almost just like iOS. So it scrolls from left to right as well, just like iOS. So very similar. So people that are coming from the iPhone 4 on either carrier, they're looking to migrate over, should be pretty pleased with this. The learning curve should be pretty low, at least on the menu front. And then you can see the notifications bar here with the shortcuts up top, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, silent, and then of course screen rotation, which I have turned on, and then your notifications themselves. And then we can go back in here and take a look at what comes pre-installed. Just to show you on this one as well, here's what it looks like, and there's a big benefit. I don't have any notifications to show you right now, but whenever I have 3 or 4 notifications, I like how easy it is to get rid of each individual one. I know there are shortcuts in some of the other user interfaces, but if I have a text message, a missed call, and an email, let's say, and I know that I have the missed call, I can delete the missed call individually without having to clear out everything else. So they just make it pretty intuitive and pretty easy, which is what I like. So up here you'll see all apps, and of course you can categorize by recent, downloaded, or Sprint apps. So we can bring up the Sprint ones just like that, for example, and see the bloatware that comes pre-installed. So NASCAR, Sprint Cup Mobile, Sprint ID, Sprint Mobile Wallet, Sprint Music, Radio, TV, Movies, Worldwide Zone, and then Telenav GPS Navigator. And then you have a shortcut up here to the Android market, and then you can add some stuff into this folder if you want to. You can create a new group of your own and do it that way. But it's nice to see, and another thing, Sprint's really listened to their customers. They allow these programs to be removed now. And you can see over here, AT&T Code Scanner, AT&T Family Map, All Share, talking about stuff that's pre-installed, Live TV, Samsung's Media Hub, My AT&T, and then YP Mobile. Now, if I remember right, this was right when they were transitioning over. So let me look for myself before I say something. But I believe you can uninstall the AT&T stuff as well on this one. Let's see, My AT&T. Uninstall updates. Let's see. Let me look real quick. Bear with me here. I want to make sure. Okay, let's try Code Scanner. Okay, you can't uninstall the AT&T applications on this device. Now, AT&T is in the process of switching over where you can uninstall some of their stuff. So you look at some of the later Android builds, perhaps like 2.3 on the Atrix, and you can uninstall the AT&T stuff. So hopefully with the Gingerbread update, when it comes to the Infuse 4G, you can do so. But anyway, here's how they look on the home screen. You can see they're distinctly different. I mean, there's a blue theme here in Motorola's applications platform, and then of course, in addition to the Sprint stuff that comes pre-installed, you have Motorola. Well, I shouldn't say Blur. Motorola applications platform, the accounts. You can see that some of the icons are a little bit different. Yes, I do have the Geico Bro Stash on the Photon, so I get to play around with that on my time off. Is the gentleman with the Bro Stash invited to this party? And then you can see rich location down here, which this is a pretty cool tool. And actually, I'm just going to jump right into it so you can see. Actually, no, I'm not. The rich location brings up apartments, brings up Starbucks or coffee locations, brings up restaurants, all within your immediate area. So you can go there and be like, I'm looking for a gas station. I'm looking for a Starbucks, looking for stuff like that. And it's pretty simple and easy. Netflix pre-installed as well on this, and of course visual voicemail. And then the web top connector, like the Atrix, you can connect it to the web top. So let's take a look really quickly at widgets. And you can see here, the categorized in 2 different ways. Samsung doesn't have a whole lot of widgets on TouchWiz 3.0, so we'll go over here and take a look. And you can see Buddies Now, Calendar Days, Dual Clock. Those are some Samsung widgets. And then the Semi Clock is one that I installed myself. Social Updates is Samsung. And you can see that's the Semi Clock in case you're interested in downloading that from the Android market. It is a free application. Whereas over here, you have a bunch of Motorola widgets. You have a bunch of Android widgets, so they've categorized them by Motorola and by Android. So we'll go into Motorola, and you can see, we'll go to, let's see, calendar, for example, and then we'll bring up, hit done there, and it's going to bring up a calendar just like this. Now, where I really like Motorola Blur, the ability to customize the size of these widgets. So you can see, I can make this widget almost any size that I want to. So when you're on an area that's a really tight home screen, like I have a little bit of space left, I could probably fit 2 widgets in there, maybe even 3, if I categorize them a certain way. So when you have those really tight home screens, it's nice to be able to do that, whereas Samsung has some pretty big bulky widgets. So we'll go in here to widgets and take a look at, let's do social updates, for example. Yeah, tap that. Okay, cool. Social updates, you can see it takes up the entire screen. So there's no room left on this home screen, which both of these have 7 home screens, by the way. And you can easily access by hitting home here and seeing those, or you can come out and see them separately there. But that one takes up the whole screen. You don't have the ability to customize the size. Just one little thing I like about Motorola Blur. Let's take a look at messaging. We're going to load up text messaging. We're going to bring it down here and say the Quick Brown Fox. Quick Brown Fox is full of baloney. Quick Brown Fox is dull of baloney, apparently. So here's what it looks like in landscape. Now, because you have a big 4.3-inch display on this device, it's nice, for people with larger thumbs like myself, you can type in portrait and or landscape and be pretty comfortable on this device, whereas, with something like maybe a 3.5 or 3.7-inch display, you may have to type in landscape only. So it's a nice keyboard. Motorola's multi-touch keyboard is by far my favorite Android keyboard, but if you don't like it, you have the option to go to input method and do swipe as well. And then there are a bunch of options in the Android market as well. Gingerbread keyboard, Swift key, a bunch of different free and slightly paid for options that are $2 to $4. Which if you really don't like either of these keyboards, you do have options in the Android market. But all transition effects look great on this device. This is because of Motorola's applications platform. This is not an Android 2.3 thing, but you can see there's a nice transition effect now. Whereas I'll go into messaging on this one, and we'll start a new text message. And you can see it's just a pretty blocky transition. There's no transition effects on that. But the multi-touch, by far the best keyboard on Android, in my opinion. Well, you get a couple of different options on this one as well. You get Android, you get Samsung, and then you get Swipe. The Gingerbread's one that I've added myself, but you get Samsung, Android, and Swipe pre-installed out of the box. So because this is Android 2.2, you're noticing it's the Android 2.2 keyboard, and we'll say the Quick Brown Fox wants cookies. Quick Brown Fox wants, can't type today, cookies. So you can see that, and then you can see it in landscape as well. Now this one has a big 4.5-inch display, so if you have any trouble typing on devices, but you want to go to a touchscreen, this is probably going to be a great device for you because it is a big display. The Super AMOLED Plus display really shines and looks good with colors all the way from pictures down to the blacks in the keyboard. So we can change over here, and you can see input method. We'll switch to Gingerbread keyboard just so you can see what Gingerbread looks like, and you can see kind of the key difference, if you will. The Quick Brown Fox is happy. Quick Brown Fox is happy. It's a little bit easier to type on, and of course you can use it in landscape mode as well.